So again, my name is Mario. I'm the tech evangelist at Amazon. I'm part of the App Store team here in UK. I'm based in London. And again, my role is technology evangelist. Apparently has been officially voted as the second most stupid job title ever. Apparently the number one, creative catalyst. No idea what a creative catalyst is. I know about me, about what I do, which is basically this. It's work with the community of developers and making sure that you guys are fully up to speed on Amazon technologies and how to use them. And before joining Amazon, I've been an Android developer for many years, I would say since the early days of Android. I've been creating quite a few apps as an indie developer and also working as a consultant. And also been working in collaboration with Google for 3 years as a Google developer expert for Android. Speaking a lot of conferences, and another Easter egg is that my name is Mario and my dad's name is Luigi. So I want to think that I was bound to work with apps and games developers. Anyway, Android, of course. So we're all here to discuss about mobile, and Android development is very, very important. So Android is not just for mobile devices anymore. It's clear today more than ever. And even though actually Android started as a operating system for mobile devices, actually Android was supposed to have a small memory footprint, to be battery efficient, so you can be installed on pretty much any phone. Well, actually across the years, Android evolved a lot and changed a lot as a platform. So for example, around 2012, tablets came up, and all of a sudden we developers could start thinking about a different way to creating apps and games for Android, and we had much bigger real estate that we could use, and app design has evolved as well. So, and I found fascinating that actually now Android is moving to another form factor, which interestingly we can even say is, well, the less mobile device ever, right? Which is the TV, which is actually a great thing, because we as mobile developers, as Android developers in particular, we can leverage all of our knowledge and all the developer tools that we already know to build efficient applications for new user experiences, for the 10-foot experience. So today we're going to talk a lot about Fire OS. So Fire OS is the operating system that animates all Amazon devices, the Fire tablets, and of course the Fire TV. So Fire TV apps run on Fire OS, but actually not everyone knows that Fire OS is, in fact, it's Android. Is built on Android Lollipop 5.1. So the efficient version of Lollipop. And of course, as you might know, there's also Android TV, and Android TV apps run, of course, on top of Android. So if you take a look at this, you will notice that there is a direct kinship between Fire TV applications and Android TV applications. And actually, I think that this concept even goes beyond this. It's all about cross-platform development and cross-device development. So when you're creating an app, you shouldn't just focus on a single specific use case, but you should always think, how can I build my application and leverage it in the best way possible? What is the portfolio of devices that I can cover with my app? So Fire OS 5, as I said, is built on top of Android 5.1, which is, again, a great thing for us Android developers, because we don't really need to use different developer tools. We can still build applications that run on TV devices using the developer tools that we use every day. So Android Studio. To build applications for Fire TV or for Android TV, you're going to still use Android Studio. And talking about Fire TV, the question I receive a lot is, okay, how is Fire TV doing? Fire TV is doing incredibly well. Currently is the #1 best-selling streaming media player in the United States, UK, and Germany. And another question I get is, what is people doing with the Fire TV? Okay, you have millions of these users. What are these users doing? Well, it's not a surprise to me that actually people is using Fire TV as a TV. So the biggest use case is, of course, media streaming consumption. So even just in UK, every day there are many millions of minutes consumed on media streaming applications. And building media streaming apps is non-trivial. right? There are a lot of different moving parts, and today we're gonna zero in exactly on this. But let's talk about the hardware itself, about the Fire TV family, about these devices. What is Fire TV? So even though we just saw that the OS that animates these devices is the same, which is Fire OS, actually the two devices that compose the Fire TV family are actually quite different. There is the Fire TV box and the Fire TV stick. So the main difference between these devices is power. So Fire TV box is actually more powerful. Is one of the few top boxes which is capable of streaming 4K content. Has a quad-core CPU, 2 gig of RAM, so plenty of horsepower to run pretty much even the more demanding apps and games. On the other side, you have the Fire TV stick. Fire TV stick has a few advantages. First of all, is portable. So you can literally bring wherever you go. For example, I do travel a lot. I always have with me my Fire TV stick. I plug it into an HDMI-enabled TV, and I turn it into my Fire TV experience with my own apps and content. And on the other side, has the other good advantage of being extremely affordable. This is the new Fire TV stick that we just launched here in UK a few weeks ago. Is only £39. So as you can imagine, there are a lot of these devices out there. There are actually millions of devices out there. And I want to stress this even more. These are full-fledged Android devices. You can run native apps on these ones. If you want to know more about the specs, just follow this link. But the take-home is, okay, we have this huge volume of users out there. What can we do with it? So when it comes to user and user experience, Amazon is very customer focused. Actually, we say we're customer obsessed. And one thing that we always listen to is feedback. And feedback about the first iteration of the interface is like, it's nice, but we would like something more. And that's why we completely redesigned the UI of the Fire TV experience, and this is the new interface that you find on all the new Fire TV sticks and on the Fire TV box, and across the next month is going to be propagated to the previous Fire TV devices. And as you can see here, there is much more real estate for your apps. On the top you see there is a huge image, in this case is the Grand Tour, but that actually is an interactive carousel of content where, well, my team, the App Store team, has capability of showcasing not just video content, but also apps and games. So this is a huge spotlight on your content, and we wanted to stress a lot of attention on apps. So there is even a row that says your apps and games, and makes super easy for your users to find and use apps. So apps. What kind of apps are out there? So of course, media streaming. Pretty much all the big players are there. A lot of games as well. But you probably recognize a lot of these names. But we don't just want just these apps. We want to enable everyone, all the developers, to create high-quality media streaming applications. And it shouldn't be difficult to build apps for TV. So if you are half the geek developer that I am, as soon as you get an Android device, what is the first thing that you want to do? Is to connect to these devices, start deploying your applications, and start testing your apps. So ADB setup, how do you do this? How do you connect to a Fire TV device to deploy and test your apps? Well, there is the classic method, which is take your USB cable, connect it to the Fire TV, and run your apps, which works, totally works. But then, what you're going to usually experience as a developer is that you're going to have your screen there, your plugged Fire TV in there, and your workstation. And you will be developing your app just being a few centimeters from the screen. What actually, in my opinion, works much better is to experience development as your user will experience your app. So from the 10-foot experience. So let's say place your TV 3-4 meters from you, and then build your app, and then design your app. The approach that you will have in creating the widgets or designing the UX of your app will be radically different than the one that you do when you have a screen and a few centimeters distance. So how can you deploy applications if you're that far away? You do this over Wi-Fi, of course. And the Fire TV is enabled by default to connect to your workstation over Wi-Fi. How do you do this? So this is the new interface of the settings of the Fire TV. You go to Developer Options and turn on ADB debugging. As soon as you click Turn On, your Fire TV, all Fire TVs are enabled to connect over Wi-Fi. Then the other thing that you need to do is go to the About network and copy the IP address of your Fire TV, which of course needs to be connected to the Wi-Fi. And then you go on your workstation and just run the 3 magic words, ADB connect, and copy the IP address of your device. Click enter, and you're immediately connected over the Wi-Fi to your Fire TV. And you can immediately start deploying applications. One reminder here, making sure that you're on the same Wi-Fi. I tell you this because a few weeks ago I was testing an app. I wanted to test an app, and I couldn't deploy to the app, and then it turns out that the Fire TV was connected to a different Wi-Fi, and I wasted 3 hours of my time debugging the app, whatever. So now we're connected to, we've connected our developer tools to the Fire TV. How are we going to create the app? What are we going to use? So when we first launched the Fire TV in 2014, we shipped the Fire TV with an SDK. That was called the Fire TV SDK add-on. This was a specific SDK for Fire TV that allows you to easily create applications just for Fire TV. And then we were listening to you guys, to the feedback of developers. And the feedback was, really? Like an SDK just for Fire TV? What if I want to develop for other platforms? That doesn't really work. So we listened to this feedback and said, probably the Fire TV SDK is not the right way to go. So we deprecated it. And with iOS 5, we introduced full support for the v17 Leanback library. So I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Leanback, but Leanback is basically a default support library from Google that allows you to easily create applications for Android TV. The great news is that if you build an app using the Leanback library, the app, technically works out of the box on Fire TV as well. And when you launch, the first template will look pretty much like this. You will have tiles, you will have all your content, all the animations work out of the box, the player already works. So pretty much everything works. So you can even add in-app purchase if you want. So that sounds great, right? Like you have Leanback. Everything you do on Android TV, pretty much you can do on Fire TV. But then we listen again to your feedback. You say, Leanback is good. It's great that we can build cross-device application and cross-OS. Actually, Leanback is just the first building block for an application. But when it comes to a media streaming app, there are a lot of moving parts there. Most of the time, you will have your videos somewhere, probably in a service. That could be your video content hosted on, I don't know, S3, for example, and then you have your metadata in a DB, and you have to connect this service to the TV. And then the TV needs to deal with stuff like bit rates, or what if you have live streaming? So connecting a service to a Leanback-enabled project is definitely non-trivial. It actually takes a lot of time and effort to get right. And we had a goal. We had a goal to enable developers to build applications not in hours, not in days, not in months, but in minutes. It shouldn't be difficult to create an application for Fire TV. And that's the reason we created new 2 developer tools, the Fire App Builder and the Web App Starter Kit. So these 2 templates for creating applications share the same concept. So the concept is that you have your own service somewhere, and you have the front-end application, the template itself. If your service is capable, if you are capable of exposing the content of your service in form of a feed, for example, a JSON feed or an XML feed, You can then just provide this feed to the template, and the template will automatically populate the interface and manage all the complexities that you, as a developer, should usually manage, like bit rates, like populating the interface, fetching the images, fetching the video, working with encoding and authorizations and tokens, for example. The template does everything. And actually, there are a lot of different features. The Fire App Builder is the Java template. So it's an Android-enabled project, while the Web App Starter Kit, as the word itself explained, is a web template based on HTML5 and CSS. And there are a lot of different features in there. Both deal with JSON and media RSS feeds, can manage different players, allows you to customize the theme and the brand, and have a lot of different additional features. So let's jump on it and start talking about the Fire App Builder, which is probably maybe the most relevant in this context with working with Android developers. So the Fire App Builder is a plug-and-play template for audio and video apps. And the aim is to enable you to develop an application for Fire TV in less than an hour. Actually, working with a lot of partners, we see that usually you can get your first template to connect to your own service, so have a full-fledged working application, usually takes 15 minutes. So the beauty of the Fire App Builder is that it is a modular template. So you have different components or modules that you can swap in and out if you want to enable or disable features. And you will see in a second what features you can add or take out. And again, it handles JSON feeds, but also media RSS feeds, so basically XML. Can be extended with your own code. This is an open source project. It's on GitHub. You can even add pull requests if there is anything that you think we need to fix. Please let us know. You can completely customize it, tear it apart, and change it in any way you want. Supports the Amazon Fire TV family, as you can imagine, but if you want, you can also run on Android TV and Marshmallow Plus. So when you launch the Fire App Builder for the first time, this is the interface that you will see. And everything that you see in this short video is actually dynamically generated from a feed that provides information like the images and the video itself and all the metadata from simply using a JSON feed. And in the video player, by default, uses Amazon's versions of ExoPlayer. But you can easily swap with even a custom player if you want. So, as I said before, the Fire App Builder is a modular template, which means that you have different components to enable or disable different features. For example, let's say that you want to add in-app purchase, or if you want to add subscriptions, there is a module for that. If you want to add social logins, you want to add login with Amazon, which is very, very easy to use if you're on Fire TV, or if you want to add Facebook login, for example, there is a module for that. If you want to add advertisement, VAST, for example, ads, which are very popular across media streaming applications, you can do it. Analytics, very, very important when you want to monitor the behavior of your users and understand what's working and what not. Plugins for that. And even if you want to add a different media player, you can do this. The way the template is built is you can extend interfaces or even from scratch these components and then swap them. So basically there are, I will say, three main steps when it comes to creating a Fire App Builder enabled application. The first part is, of course, configuring your feed. If you have a service, you need to expose the metadata of your content in a form of a feed. JSON feed, XML, up to you. Then you write down what is called a recipe. So the recipe is a file that is inside your application that defines how you connect the tags of your feed to the tags that the Fire App Builder can understand. So basically, it's connecting the Fire App Builder and your content. You can easily customize the UI. We spent a lot of time in making sure that we took away a lot of the complexities about customizing the UI of the interface, allowing you developers to add specific branding to applications, which we know is very, very important, in particular if you work for specific clients. And again, you can then decide which components you want, if you want to swap in or out specific components. And then, of course, launching the app. So let's see one by one these steps. So the first part, as I said, is creating the feed. Let's say that this is your feed in form of a JSON feed, for example. You will have the ID of your video, the title, description, even the duration, maybe some thumbnails for the main preview of the video, and then maybe a splash image that you want to display, the URL of your video, of course, and then eventually some categories that you want to group your videos in. And a neat feature of the Fire App Builder is that the categories are actually generated automatically. If you just define them and pass them over to the template will generate all the categories for you. So, and the important bit is that the Fire App Builder doesn't really care about which name did you use here, or if you have one or don't have the other. The important bit happens in the second step, which is the recipe itself. So in your project, you will find this file, which is called recipe.json. And in this recipe, you will find a specific tag, which is called match list. And the match list is literally where you connect the tags of your feed to the tags of the Fire App Builder. So let's say that, for example, your URL was called video URL. You just write down video URL at URL, and that's it. The Fire App Builder automatically knows that that tag contains the URL of your video. Nothing more you have to do. Everything works, and this is not just the few tags that you can find in the Fire App Builder. There are much more tags to pretty much deal with everything, including the categories, for example. And then, as I said, you want to customize the UI. I guess that pretty much all the Android developers in the room know how painful it is to deal with fonts in Android. Well, with the new version coming out, might be easier, but usually it's pretty painful to deal with fonts. So we wanted this to be super easy, so we included in the project the library Calligraphy, which is a very powerful library to manage fonts. So if you want to add the specific font, you just add the name of the font from your asset folder, and then it just works. For peace of mind, we ship the Fire App Builder with 40 embedded fonts, and you can even add your custom fonts. Just drop them in the asset folder and add the name here, and it works. And this is just an example. Pretty much most of the widgets, sizes, and even images of the Fire App Builder are managed in the same way. It should be, most of the time, you shouldn't even touch the Java or XML code. You can just work with the recipes or with the navigator.json file to customize the UI and the colors and the widgets. And so this is the main interface that we've seen of the Fire App Builder with this carousel of content and the preview in the top right. It's one of the interface. But a lot of developers don't really like this interface. They like a more grid-style presentation. And you want to change that. You don't even have to change a single line of code. You just need to change 4 characters. Actually add 4 characters. And move from content browse activity to the full content browse activity. And the interface completely changes. You have, on the left, you have a more Limbeck style column with all the categories, which are, again, generated automatically, and then a grid of all the videos there. And I think this is a great example of how much decoupled the project is. So you can basically build a new interface and completely detach that kind of development from the core features of fetching the content and populating the interface. And then, of course, there is the last part, which is to swap the components. So swapping the components is very, very easy. You do this using the Gradle files. So basically, in the settings.gradle, you will find a series of lines that are defined as implementations. Implementations are basically implementations of specific interfaces. And we have interfaces for ads or for the media player, for analytics or login and in-app purchase, live streaming, and you just name it. Say that we want to change the login system. We just change the login, we want to substitute the login with Amazon with the Facebook login, for example. We just go into the settings.gradle and change all the occurrences of login with Amazon content with Facebook off component. And that's it. It just works. Then, of course, you will need to add your own authentication tokens from the Facebook app, but the actual implementation inside the template, it's that easy. You just go into the settings.gradle, and of course you will need to go into the build.gradle as well and change the occurrences even there. It's just a few strings that you need to change, and you can swap in and swap out components. So, and that's what happens. So you swap the Facebook component, and then when you launch a specific activity, which through the recipe you have connected to this component, you will display the login with Facebook interface. So there's actually much more. If you want to discover more, you just go on bit.ly Fire App Builder doc, and you'll find all the documentation and tutorials on the Fire App Builder. Very, very easy to do. And if you want to start today, just go on github.com/Amazon, which is the official Amazon repository, and clone the Fire App Builder project. Now I want to spend a few words about the Web App Starter Kit as well, which is the web counterpart. So, as I said before, the Web App Starter Kit, or WASK, is actually very similar to the Fire App Builder. It shares the same philosophy of connecting your template to your service. As a few additional features, well, a few different features actually, along with JSON and media RSS feeds, it also allows you to easily create applications from YouTube as well. So use YouTube as a media source for your application. Actually, that's probably the easiest way to create a WASC-enabled application. Then you can customize, of course, the UI using CSS and all the classic web development tools. And you will see in a second how to test the app on Fire TV with a web app tester. How easy is it to create an app from YouTube? You literally have to change 2 lines of code. First one, into the init.javascript file. You just change the user and put the name of the username of the YouTube channel that you want to create the app of. And then you add your YouTube data API developer key, which you can get from YouTube, and that's it. You refresh the application, you will have something like this. So in this case, for example, instead of my username on YouTube, I put Amazon App Distro, which is the official Amazon App Store developer YouTube channel, and the app just works. And you can test it directly in your browser. Then, again, as I said before, it's very good to test your app directly on the Fire TV. How can you do this if you have a web application? Well, there is an app that you can download directly on the Fire TV, which is called the Amazon Web App Tester. So basically, into the Amazon Web App Tester, you can add the name of your app and then the URL of the basically of the index.html file of your application that you will probably have uploaded somewhere. Or you can even zip your web app and upload it directly on the local storage of the app and provide and this, if you go to a test packaged app, it will automatically appear in the list. And then you click test, and again, immediately works and enable you to test directly on the Fire TV. And you can play with the remote, you can see that all the clicks goes through, and it just works. And Even though it's incredibly easy to build an app starting from YouTube, you can do the same thing if you have a media RSS feed or an XML feed. Pretty much, it works exactly like the Fire App Builder. So even on Wask, you can go on bit.ly/waskdoc and find everything. You can also find a webinar that I presented on Wask, and a walkthrough step-by-step on how to create a Wask application. And even here, you follow the short link and you will find the GitHub page for Wask. What if, and then another question that I get from developers, which is, okay, what if I don't have time to develop an application for the TV? What if I already have a very successful mobile application and I just want to share media content from the mobile app on phone and tablets to the Fire TV? How can you do this? Well, it's actually very, very easy, using another SDK, which is called Amazon Fling. So basically, Amazon Fling is a toolkit that enables you to share multi-screen experiences between your mobile phone and the TV. So if you're confident with the concept of casting, Fling is very, very similar. Allows you to build, to embed the SDK inside your mobile application and to share content to the TV. The cool thing of Fling is that it's a native SDK, which means that you can build not only an experience on your mobile, on Android, iOS, and Fire OS, but even you can build a custom receiver on the Fire TV itself, which is going to be an Android app. So if you're an Android developer, it's actually much easier than building a web receiver, for example. And easily allows you two-way communication between the Fire TV and your mobile device. So how does that work? Let's say you have a mobile application with the embedded Fling component in it, and then on the other side, you have a Fire TV. So one cool thing is that all Fire TVs out there come with an embedded Fling receiver, which means that if you just want to share video content or audio content or images, on the Fire TV side, you don't really have to do anything. You can use the embedded Fling receiver. And what you do is literally you send content from the mobile app to the embedded Fling receiver in form of video, audio metadata, or even image metadata. And then the Fire TV will automatically play this content and fetch the content from internet or the cloud or your service, so it depends where you store your content. The alternative is, if you want to build an even more rich experience, you can actually embed a custom Fling receiver inside your Amazon Fire TV application. So a custom Android app that runs on Fire TV. For the sake of this presentation, I will talk about the first case, which is when you just want to share media content easily from your phone to the TV. So as I said before, you need to share metadata content. The way you do this is, again, using JSON. So you encode a string in form of a metadata JSON. Well, you provide a lot of different information, like the title, the type of content. Is it an MP4? Is it an MP3? Is it a JPEG? Description, so some text that is going to be displayed when you first launch the content. You can add tracks. You can even add subtitles if you want. You just need to provide a link to the subtitles and to the and define what language that particular subtitle is. And you can also add a specific tag, which is the no replay. So basically saying that when the content has finished playing on the Fire TV, then it will automatically stop playing. Otherwise, it will automatically replay in a loop. And then the other information that you need to provide, of course, is the metadata of the URL of the video or of the content that you want to share. So it could be video, it could be JPEG, or audio content as well. And then in your application, first of all, you need to discover the Fling receiver, which is done very, very easily using a custom class which is called Discovery Controller. Basically, when you start in the on or resume of your app, you will pass two things. The first one is the listener, which is basically defines all the callback that you're gonna call when a specific Fling receiver is called. So basically, if you found a Fling receiver, then do this. And then you have this string here, which is the identifier for the receiver. So if you're building a custom receiver, here you will add the unique identifier for your receiver. So you can call my.receiver.awesome, whatever it is. But if you want to use the embedded Fling receiver like we want to do in this example, we just use amazon.theme.pl, which is the default unique identifier for the embedded Fling receiver. And then what you have to do in the callback, player discovered, which is called when the player has been found, so when our mobile application has found a receiver on the other side, you will be provided with a remote media player. So the remote media player is literally the Fire TV player. And then what you do is remote media player dot set media source. And set media source is, through this method, you provide the video URL, which we've seen before is the link, is the string that contains the content that you want to play, and the metadata JSON, which is the JSON that we compile with all the metadata we need to provide. And then you can add two additional flags, which is the metadata, the autoplay. So if you want to automatically start playing the content as soon as the content is being flung to the Fire TV. And then the playing background, which is actually not used by the embedded Fling receiver, is used if you want to build a custom receiver and want not to display any overlay content as soon as you display something on the Fire TV. So it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, well, maybe 5 lines of code if you then have to implement the controller start. But the core concept here is that incredibly easy to share content from your mobile device, being a tablet or a phone, to the Fire TV. And that's it for Fire TV, but then I want to answer one question that I'm sure all of you are going to ask, and I know this has been a very hot topic in this conference, which is, how do I get featured? How do I get visibility for my apps on Fire TV? So getting featured on the stories is very, very important for pretty much all developers, and we know this. And we wanted to give everyone, not just the big names, an opportunity to get featured. And that's why my team here in UK launched a new project, which is called the UK Developer Spotlight. So basically, if you submit a new application on the store, you can be considered for featuring of course, if it's an Android application, it can be featured on all devices, on Amazon devices, on non-Amazon devices, on App Store, and of course on our Amazon website. But if it's a Fire TV, you can get featured on the main real estate, in the main interface. And as we've seen before, there are a lot of applications out there, but when it comes to Fire TV, maybe the competition is not there yet compared to phones and tablets. So it's a great opportunity. So the first thing you have to do is register an Amazon developer account if you haven't already. It's free, very easy to do. 5 minutes and you register. You submit your application, and then you go to this link, bit.ly UK Spotlight 17. You fill out a very quick form letting us know your email address and which app are you proposing for being featured. And then my team will evaluate and get you featured not just in UK, but even in the United States and in Germany as well. So great opportunity. This is the link. If you have any questions, I'll be around to answer those. And that being said, this is it. So thank you very much for listening. If you want, please do scan this QR code or follow this short link. There is a very, very quick survey about this presentation, if you liked it or not, and you can give me feedback. And if you leave me your email address at the end of the form, at the end of the conference, I will sort a winner and send the winner a Fire TV stick. So the new one, which also comes with Alexa, forgot to mention it. So great occasion, very important for me, so please do. Anyway, if you have any questions, this is my Twitter account. I want all of you to follow me, please. And also there is the Amazon App Dev Twitter account, which is the Amazon App Store developers official handle, and every day we share more and more content. So that's it. I don't know if we have times for questions. Anyway, I'll be around, so anything I can do. Thank you very much, guys.